What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast, where we are here to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy, and get better every single day. I'm bringing on a gentleman that I had a chance to observe at his conference, and he's humble, he's successful, he is just an awesome dude and full of so much knowledge, specifically to investing and really running an amazing life of freedom. David Phelps owned a dental practice for over 21 years and began investing in real estate during dental school, eventually building a portfolio that generated $15,000 monthly. When his daughter Jenna faced severe health issues, he left his practice, relying on his real estate income to support them through her recovery. Today, David is a speaker and leader of the Freedom Founders Mastermind community, helping professionals achieve financial freedom through strategic real estate investing. Well, brother, I'm excited to have you on. It was such a pleasure to see your group, Freedom Founders, out in Dallas or the Dallas area. Brother, so good to see you. What's happening?
It was great to see you back then, just a few weeks back, JM. And I think we're just enjoying a nice fall here in Texas. Sometimes it's not our best weather because in the summertime it's just a heat wave. so we appreciate the seasons here, and it's been a great fall so far.
Well, brother, you deserve it. And as I was reading the introduction, one thing that hit me is obviously when something drastic happens or something like your daughter's health, you made a decision that family comes first. We're gonna deal with this. What I loved about seeing what you did with your group is you're saying, let's not wait until tragedy or something. Let's plan so that, again, the word freedom, so we're clear, it's my favorite F word. And some people would argue, David, there's another one that might be more popular with me. But I'm telling you, freedom is my favorite F word that there is. Talk to me a little bit about making that decision in the moment. Again, being a dad, I can't imagine. I don't want to, but you made this decision that I'm going to step away from what I went to school for, what I'm trained for, and yet now you're teaching others you don't have to leave your practice, but you can certainly find this freedom before a tragedy happens, so you really get to experience life. I guess I don't know if the question's clear on that, but that's what hit me as I was reading your bio.
Yeah, JM, I think that is a really, really great question. And it's kind of the dichotomy of how many of us are built. We're entrepreneurs. We want to control our destiny and build safety and stability for our families and our lifestyle. And we do that by getting the education and the skill sets to go do something in some kind of entrepreneurial business. A lot of the folks that we're talking to today are entrepreneurs, or they may be in professional practice. That's our drive, and we feel like that's part of our responsibility and obligation to our families, because, well, we're supposed to be the ones that are out there fighting the fights, right, and slaying the dragons and doing what it takes to protect our families. And financial part is a big part of that. It can even be a little bit of a pride and ego thing. Well, how much can I create for my family and feel like really good about it, and that kind of satiating, that workaholic kind of a feeling that sometimes we get into. And I say sometimes we, because that's really a lot of how I am built. So what I'm saying is, in answering your question, it wasn't a natural, easy move for me to make. In fact, just kind of going back a little bit in time, my daughter, Jennifer, whom you spoke about, her health crisis, the one that actually moved the needle for me and forced me to make a decision. There was a precursor to that, and she had some other health issues even earlier than her life. She went through a really tough battle with high-risk leukemia when she was 2.5 years old to a little over 5. A really, really tough battle. And she made it through that, and we got through it, except unfortunately the marriage to her mom didn't get through that. There's just a lot of things there when you go through a health crisis with a family member, and some people probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It's tough. Got through that, but I'm still carrying on, and again, being supportive as as a father now with separate households, and still being financially responsible as we all would do, carrying on the best I can, right? And then later, then Jenna has the liver transplant, and that's where sitting in the hospital when she's 12 years old, and thinking to myself, how many more opportunities am I going to get as a father? Because maybe she doesn't have 9 lives like a cat. She's had several, and I'm seriously thinking about. And this is hard because it's like, well, I went to school to get all this training because that's what I was told to do, and that's what we set out to do to create that financial stability for our families. Do I kind of walk away from that, or can I continue to spin all the plates? Well, I've been spinning a lot of plates, and it really wasn't working well, and I didn't feel good about it. So when it came to my daughter versus my own pride, ego, identity as a doctor, that decision was easy to make on an emotional standpoint. I mean, what father, what parent wouldn't choose your child over any other decision? You would run into a burning house to pull your kid, your family member out. You wouldn't think twice. Well, that's how I felt. Now, the other side is, okay, I go do that emotionally. That's what I'm doing. But there's the other side. It's like the logical, rational. Okay, great move. But how are you going to make this happen from the financial standpoint? So there's a logical side that comes into this. So, you're playing with both, right? And so I'll let you carry on with the story, but I had been doing some things outside of dentistry in kind of more of an active plan B wealth building through real estate that gave me at least a basis of a platform, not all the wealth in the world, not that I'm done and I can just do whatever I want to, but enough to buy me time, enough to buy me enough time to set aside my ego, my pride, my identity in dentistry, sell the practice, knowing I could always go back. I could always go back, didn't burn a bridge forever, but I just needed to buy time. And so to your question, what I try to instill in the people I'm privileged to work with and coach and mentor is don't wait for some societal earmarked destination point like retirement. Like I'm 65 and I'll sell the business practice, whatever, and then I'll start enjoying my life for all the fruits of the labor I put in. Wonderful. Where are your kids? Well, they're probably gone. I mean, gone meaning they've left the house, right? 18 summers are over. And your health, I'm not saying your health, but I'm saying the health of many people in their 60s isn't quite what it was in their 30s and 40s when they were vibrant and could go do stuff and be active. There's periods of time where the body's just going to start slowing down. So you work all this time to get to a destination point, and then you look back and go, what all did I miss back there? Well, probably a lot. And so I kind of try to live with a no regrets policy to the best one can. I certainly have regrets in my life. I didn't make all the right decisions, but you start with where you are today and say, what decisions can I make better going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the no regrets policy because what can you do to change it? Does that mean I don't wish? There's some stupid things I've done. Trust me, David, as we all have.
Yep.
But I can't go back and change it.
Mhm.
All I can do is moving forward,
Right.
do that much better. The other thing that struck me as I was surrounded by your community, and that's really what I felt that it was this community of like-minded folks that whether they've achieved this financial freedom or they certainly aspire to, I had this just overwhelming feel like, you know what? There's a cool perspective in this room. And I think it does start with you. And again, I'll reference your daughter one more time. So Jenna's healthy and thriving, is my understanding. But is that the perspective, David, that ultimately arrived at, you know what? I can kind of go through any fire there needs to be because even Freedom Founders, you've had some challenges and you've said, you know what? I can deal with this and I'm going to keep soldiering on because it's bigger than just me.
Yeah.
Can you what's your philosophy on it, David? Because I was there in the room hearing your story. For my audience that wasn't, I want them to understand the DNA of who you are because it's really cool.
Well, I appreciate your perspective, and trust me and trust the audience. This is something that had to develop over many years. I think we all mature. We all gain a perspective in life because we go through our own experiences. And life, if we're blessed to live it long enough and enough decades, we're going to go through some twists and turns, ups and downs. Some things we can control, and some things we can't. Irregardless, what I think we have to get over the fact is nobody's perfect, and we have to deal with life and situations, business, investments with the best information we have at the time and utilize the best resources to make decisions that we need to make. And one of the things I'll lay out, which I know you're a fan of as well, is we need to always be surrounding ourselves with the best people we can, at least what I call like an inner circle. Now, these can be people that are advisors that are licensed and professionals. So, we talk about, people that help us with tax situations and tax reporting, and we have attorneys that help us with estate planning and business applications, and those are certain part. But there's also another cadre of people that I call kind of my informal board of advisors. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Those are the people that we have curated along the way, because we've gotten out of our cave, and it's easy for a small business owner, a solo operator, to really get in a cave where you don't expand out. Physicians have a hospital that they go to. Like it or not, they have a hospital they go to, and they have camaraderie. Most of the time, solo business owners, there's just no one you can talk to. And so you're trying to make decisions in a vacuum. And I think that's a really bad thing. And I had to learn that because I made decisions on my own, not always the best ones. Today, when I'm looking at challenges and opportunities, I like to have the people I know that have no agenda on what I'm doing, only that we've built a relationship just based on respect. They bring perspective and life experiences that I don't have. I do the same thing for them. And I bring it to my table, if you will, and say, here's what I'm looking at. What am I missing? Where are my blind spots? Because I always have blind spots. Everybody does. And so if people can see those, I missed that. Totally missed that. Thank you so much. Now I know how best to go forward with whatever I'm dealing with. So that's a part of dealing with trials, tribulations, setbacks, tests. I don't even like to use the word failure, because I think in life, if people look at things that don't work out as failures, as a failure, then they're not going to want to try anything, because failure is like a bad word. It's like, oh, you fail, like in school. If you fail the test, well, then that's bad, and you get put in a box in a silo. It's like, no, that's not a failure. It's you're learning something. Well, maybe I didn't know how to study for that. Maybe there's an area that I'm just not good at, and I need extra help. That's a learning opportunity, not a failure. So, but this is something I had to get over myself, because I was very much built on the fact that I need to always look the part, be the part, and be perfect. It's like, no, stop doing that. Good leaders never take on the role of being a perfectionist or know-it-all. In fact, that's the worst thing a leader can do. As a leader, you need to be transparent and open and vulnerable, to the standpoint that you need insight from other people, and we're making the best decisions we can. But if we make a decision we don't like, it didn't work out, we're quick to say, hey, you know what, that's not the best way to go. We're gonna twist and turn here, and if it's my responsibility, I take it on. But let's go, team. And that's the way you have to get, I think, move forward in life, and not have this perfectionist attitude that you can't do anything wrong.
Yeah, well, and if anybody's listening, which look, my audience is all about leadership. You have this ability on stage to be vulnerable, check your ego at the door, and really put yourself out there and say, here I am, not physically naked, but here I am. Here's everything. You don't get to see it often, David, but I will tell you, having a chance to spend time with the people that are influenced and following you, they'll follow you through a brick wall because of that, because you're not saying, here's the best of me. Of course you want to present that, but here's the other side too. I thought it was remarkable. The other thing that you mentioned was controlling what we can control. And obviously when you're in the world of investing, we can't control the economy. At the end of the day, that is outside of our control. However, we can make some decisions, perhaps, so that when the market goes down or it goes up, that we're not radically affected by it. Like I think of 2008, 9, and 10, when that real estate bust, man, that was brutal for so many people, including myself. I'm curious, when you talked about not being able to control or controlling what you can control, what are your thoughts when it comes to the economy, when it comes to kind of preparing so that we don't get just pummeled as so many people did during that time, because that cycle wasn't, it's kind of coming up on, I'm not saying it's going to happen again,
Mhm.
but how do we prep for it?
Yeah, it's a really good point because I think we all get used to what we see in the rear view mirror, recency bias. Things if things have been good, if they've been good, and for a lot of people in general, the economy has been strong based on a lot of factors we don't need to go into today, but it's been strong, and we've had this bull market that is in the financial market and tech stocks, and today crypto and gold's making a run, and real estate had a big run. Real estate's topped out and seeing somewhat of a disinflation right now. As you stated, I think we're in a market cycle turn, different assets at different places. And that's the part of life that we can't control. But I think once we are cognizant of the fact that the market does go in cycles, we just don't know what the duration is. It's just, you don't know the duration. We don't know what the globalists and the people that handle the monetary and fiscal policies are going to do. They never do what's right, so you can kind of bet on that. Take that to the bank, right? They're going to spend more money, right? We're going to have more inflation. I can probably pick those things out. Probably higher interest rates. So I can kind of look at trends, but now I have to say, we'll take those trends and say, well, how do I hedge against the downside? So downside risk mitigation is what we always look at. It's never going to be perfect, and that's where some level of diversification becomes important. Now that gets tricky because it's like, well, how can I learn about a lot of different things? That's not easy. Warren Buffett is a fan of not diversifying, but then Warren Buffett spends every waking day and hour focused on the finances of particular companies. So he does this deep dive and he's like in the weeds. It's kind of like your own business. You know your own business like the back of your hand. You know how it's working. You know the pulse of it and what you need to do, where the problems are. But in our outside investments, we're not that close to it usually. So if I can be somewhat close to those investments and know who the operators are, understand what are the fundamentals behind the business or the investment I'm making, fundamentally meaning what risk factors are in that. Like you talk about real estate. Well, just a real quick example. Because the black swan COVID caused a lot of work from home, remote work back in 2020, 21, 22. We're still dealing with the aftermath of that. But what happened to offices, right? They tanked. Now, no one could have predicted that, but I'm just saying that took a big hit. In hospitality, people weren't traveling, so hospitality took a hit. So we go in these waves. What doesn't usually take a hit is like the basics that people need, like basic shelter. Basic shelter. People are always going to look for shelter. Now you just got to figure out what dimension of that shelter you want to be a part of. Do you want to be a part of single family houses or multifamily, or people store their stuff in self storage, or where do you want to be in that? And again, diversification I think is important. So you have to look at these big trends, and you can't time the market, but I think diversifying and having some upside when inflation continues to rear its head. So you have some inflation upside, but you've also got to be prepared for the downside, market corrections, recessions, whatever you want to call them, because you alluded to it. It's coming. We just don't know exactly when and to what depth and how long it lasts. It's just a matter of nature, the economic cycles.
Yeah, you had an economist at the event, and it said a lot of really intelligent things. And yet, I remember at one point going, "Oh man, this is a bit of doom and gloom that's coming our way." And yet, at the end,
Mhm.
somebody asked a question, and they said something about real investments, and
Mhm.
this is the point that I want to get across to people, because one thing I noticed is you're not, hey, don't do everything in commercial real estate or just in gold, but rather do some due diligence.
Mhm.
And you are a big fan, it seems, of real tangible assets that I can see, feel, touch, and know that it's real. And so I don't, it was interesting to listen to The Economist, and I'm going, man, buckle up. No matter who got elected, which now we know who got elected, but it was like, this is going to be an interesting ride. And yet the tie-in was, but if you have real investments, those tangible things can't necessarily just be taken away. What are your thoughts on that? And what did you gather from when he was talking? I'm so sorry, I've forgotten the man's name, but really, really intelligent guy.
Yeah, it's Dr. Gary Wood.
Yes.
He's got like a triple PhD from Texas Tech. Brilliant man, and because of his age. He's got years in the market. Very, very, very intelligent. Yeah, well, I think one thing we have to like define right out of the gate is the difference between investment or investor versus speculation or a speculator. And I'm not saying either one's right or wrong. Speculator is someone who is trading, right? So you're trading something. You're trying to trade an arbitrage or a spread between what certain price points in the financial markets, commodities, things that move quickly. Crypto could be one. Things that do a lot of this. And that's dangerous for those of us who aren't like in that every day, right? So most of us were on the investment side. Investment means, to me, that's a long game. That's a long game. That doesn't mean you just buy and hold. You just sit there for 40 years and don't change your allocations. But you're not trying to go in and out, right? And capture these, a quick run here, quick there. Or if you do that, if you are trading or speculating, you do that with a certain allocation of money. Kind of like if you went, I'm not a gambler, but if you went to Vegas and you like to gamble, most smart people say, I'm taking this amount of money, right? And I'm not accessing anymore. When this amount of money is gone, we're done and we're out. Now, if you have that kind of discipline with your allocations and you like to play in certain areas that I would call speculative, have at it, but just know to cut it at some point. Everything else should be done on a longer term basis, meaning that you're not going to time it, and you don't want to get all caught up in the emotions of looking at the markets every day. I mean, I don't look and say what's everything trading at every day, because I don't care. I'm looking at a lot more macro trends and not what's happening on a granular basis. So investment versus speculation, I think, is critical. Now, you mentioned that the focus was quite a bit on tangible or hard assets, oftentimes called alternatives. Alternatives to what? To the financial market. And look, I'm not saying don't have money in the financial markets. There's a place for that. The financial markets have more liquidity, meaning you can put money in funds and stocks and bonds, and you can sell those assets, and redeem and get cash out. The problem with markets that are liquid is they're the ones that do more of this up and down, because when there's a rush for money, or people need money because there's a recession or a downturn, then where do they go? They go to get money from what they can sell the fastest, most efficient. Well, that's going to be in the financial markets. If I got real estate and I need money, it takes a little bit of time to sell real estate. It just doesn't happen like that. So that market's less efficient. But so there's pros and cons to both of that. You need some liquidity. So maybe you have something in the financial markets, but just, where we are today, I would probably, if I've been riding the financial markets a lot, if I had been, I probably would have been dollar cost averaging out and pulling profits out along the way. That's what I would be doing right now, and maybe leaving some in there to get the last little boost, whatever that's going to be the next 3 months or whatever. Then I think we're going to see things start to change. Hard assets, tangible assets, because they're less efficient, less liquid, which makes them less efficient in terms of liquidity, means that they're overall more stable. No, it doesn't mean that they don't fluctuate. Yeah, commodities fluctuate, gold fluctuates, real estate fluctuates, but just not on a day-to-day basis. There's longer term trends, and particularly if you pick areas of the geographical markets that are typically even really almost boringly stable. There's a lot less there, but boring's not sexy. What we all are driven towards, well, give me something that's got some pizzazz to it. Show me something with a high IRR, internal rate of return, the name for total return. Show me something you can give me like in the 20%. I want that. Well, you got to stop and say, well, wait a minute. Everybody wants that, but is the market in a position to give that today or over the next 3, 5, 7 years? I would say generally not. I think the markets have had this big run up, so that I can say, well, I'm not going to play that game. That game was good 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago when the market was running up. Now I got to shift a little bit and move to a different side of I call it the capital stack. And for me, in alternatives, that's a good place to be, because as some of these valuations, price points come down in a correction, well, there's that entry point to say, I believe in these hard assets. They're fundamental. And if I buy it at the right price, then I can maybe get another ride up as the markets cycle back again. So this is kind of the way, the investment world works. It's not perfect by any means. We can guess all day long. Everybody's got an opinion. I have one. Doesn't mean I'm going to be right. I just, hedge the best I can with what I see.
Yeah, you mentioned emotions and being tied to it. This is, I think, where I see most people really struggle or get frustrated with investing in general is, I have FOMO. I missed out.
Hmm.
So, man, I totally missed the boat. So now I'm going to make an illogical,
Yeah.
emotional decision on something that probably didn't make sense. And then, as you mentioned, look, this some of my assets, I'm going to buy it, and I'm just not going to look at it for, I don't know, a year, 2 years, 10 years, if that's kind of the goal. I guess the question would be, when it comes to monitoring or just dealing with emotions, David, because whether we like it or not, people have a lot of emotions tied to money. And I really hate watching, people go through that roller coaster where it's like, gosh, that's really not worth investing if that's how that feels. I'm thinking of my wife right now. She does not like to lose money at all. I would be the gambler. I'm okay with, you know what? So be it. I can always go make more. But in our marriage, we had to have a conversation like, hey, what is your risk tolerance? I
Hmm.
guess would be the proper term. And I've just kind of gone to the fact that, you know what? I'm cool with losing money. I'm cool with making money. She is not. Therefore, we're going to kind of hand this one off to my wife and let her do her thing because I want to have that happy marriage. So the question is, would you tell somebody that really, when it comes to emotions and money and investing, do you have some tips or thoughts where it's like, hey, don't ride that roller coaster. Let's set this so it doesn't have to be painful.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that I speak to couples first and kind of go back to the broader question. Is very often, in fact, very common that in the couples that we work with, there are two sides of the coin or the risk tolerance, as you said. Typically, and I don't want to be overly um, general here, but oftentimes our wonderful spouses are not only the nurturers of the family, but they're also the protectors. They're protecting and guarding the gate for, financial loss. Protecting for time. Quality time. They're looking for these things, and if they see some activity or behavior, not that I would ever do that. Not that I've ever been guilty of like taking risk or feeling like I need to go, work the extra hours because I can make the money on this case or something. Not that I would ever do that, but they're watching out for that. So I think there's a good kind of a tandem or correlation there. And what we find is that, and I have to do it in my own marriage too, is I have to listen to and be cognizant of what my wife deems as security for her. And that's important. You said it well. You and I, and probably many people, many of the men, would say, hey, as long as I'm young, I can live to fight another day. Let's go for it. Because we can make it up. God willing, we can make it up. And that's true to a great extent. If you're younger in life, you can take more risk, but you still got to do it in tandem with that significant other who's sitting there watching. So I think you have to give her, and I'm just saying her in this case, could be him, give her, define what security is for her. And if that's a certain amount of money, just flat sitting in the bank doing nothing, then just acknowledge it. In fact, I'm thinking of a couple right now. Had a lot of assets, and he was like we're talking about. He would just go out there and just like buy this, buy that. He was just in everything, and she was like, "No, I just want to keep a certain dollar amount, in the bank." And he couldn't stand it. Well, that money's being lazy. It's not working. She needed to know that there was liquidity in a bank account somewhere of a certain amount. And I said to him, I said, "Look, you've got all this. She's not asking for the moon. All right. I get it. You want to have every dollar working as high efficiency as possible. But I said, that's not practical for your marriage. Get over it. Set aside the capital that she wants so that she said, and then if you do that for her or anything else that she needs to feel secure, maybe it's pay off the house mortgage. Okay. No, I've got a 2.6% more. Pay the mortgage off to make her feel good. Get over it. And now you can go do this other stuff. But if you're always fighting this way, your marriage could be at risk. Now, was that worth all the high returns you got over the years? I mean, we're smiling about it, but you and I both know that's a very realistic situation that happens, and unfortunately, it happens too often in society today. We're all trying to do the right thing. We're all trying to do the right thing, but we have different risk tolerances and needs in our lives, and we have to be respectful of that. So that was kind of a sideline question, but you brought up the couple thing. That's something that's so important to for us to address that, for both sides to address it and recognize that each of us brings something to the table that's valuable in its synergy, but we have to respect each person's designs and desire for what that is. On the FOMO, the roller coaster, just in general, Yeah, it's very, very common because we can always look outside, and social media is the worst about this because everything on social media is what it's bragging rights. It's bragging about the vacation I took, the house I have, the boat I've got, the crypto win I just made last week. It's always bragging about what's great in life. You never see the downside. So it's really bad today because of that. And I think there's this FOMO. I missed out on that, so I'm not going to do that again. So I'm jumping in now. Well, now is many times, not just today, but many times now when people have, when we see these markets go, now it's actually too late. Sorry. You're jumping in late in the game. And it's really hard not to want to do that because I don't want to miss out again because I hear all these people making all this money and I'm sitting back here like I'm in the poorhouse. I want to have my big ticket. Why am I not getting mine? Because everybody else seems to be getting theirs. Folks, it's not real. Vast majority of people who are seeing all these wins they have, and they've got just as many losses somewhere else. Are just not telling you about them, and maybe not financial losses, maybe other losses that they are not proud of at all. And so, I think finding a tribe of people who can be open, honest, as you said earlier, strip off the ego badge, and just talk about life and what they're doing. Everybody we have the privilege of working with are hardworking, good people. But we all have fallacies. And I think when you can be real and say, hey, I'm no different from these other great people. We all have our baggage and things that we are afraid of, that we haven't done well. Get over it. But don't feel like you have to leapfrog to try to make something happen, because that's the worst thing to do. When you try to make something happen and it doesn't work, then that's when your spouse is going to slap you up and down side of the face because you went and tried something and it didn't work out.
Yeah, again, your community, what I felt is you guys talk about these emotions. You go on these experiences together. Yeah, maybe we're doing some investments, but really we're experiencing life. We're
Yes.
doing that freedom part of thing
Right.
to say, look, it's way more than just what I got on my return and the dividends. And like, that's a part of it. But
Right.
another part of freedom is going out and living life and experiencing it. And that's what I thought was so cool, which I'm hoping ties into, because you have a topic on here that I'm really curious, because you work, well, I'll say primarily, maybe that's incorrect. A lot of dentists in that world, because that's kind of the world you had come from. And it says, go from overthinking to dreaming to freedom. And when I think, and again, I'm generalizing, but when I think of dental practitioners or doctors, overanalyzing, overthinking, really being analytical, this is a thing that I love that you said, going from overthinking to dreaming to freedom. What does that look like, David? Is there a process to do that? Is that what you're taking them through?
Yeah, exactly. And again, I'm going to speak for myself, but I think it's common for a lot of us. Again, they're kind of the entrepreneurs, the drivers, is that we do overthink and overanalyze. Maybe it's because we're built to analyze. We're built to be engineers. We're dentists are physicians of the mouth. I mean, it's very detailed work. There's a lot of analysis goes into that. So it's kind of how we're built. And I think because of that, oftentimes we push to the side. Again, the things are important in life. And, I spoke about my own. I was, big driver until my wake up call came with my daughter. It's like, wait a minute, right? It's passing before my eyes. She may not even be here, a year later. And what am I doing? Building some financial mountain to myself? Well, that's going to feel really good sitting up there by myself. I mean, really wonderful, right? So again, you've got to take the best of the best, but also combine it with the things that our tendencies are not to dream. And so the process we found, and this is just in my world, but I'm sure other people have other processes that help people. And I know you and I've spoken about how you like to address potential clients and have a spouse, a significant other, also part of the conversation. Well, this is what I have to do to our over analytics, our doctors, the drivers, is when I have them together with their spouse, I find that they have to be honest. Well, we all do. I've been there too. I've sat in a seat next to my wife, and it's very different when someone's asking me questions about qualitative questions, not the quantitative. I can spit out all the quantitative all day long. The qualitative questions, and my wife's right there. I can't lie. I have because she's gonna snap the leash on me every time. So I was like, you better fess up and talk about how many date nights you've missed, how many requests for quality time that you said, let me just get this. I've said to her, let me just get this done, and then let me get through this, and then, and so when you have honesty, in front of us, then we can focus on not to beat people down, but say, okay, so what is missing from all this over analysis? You're putting everything into all these numbers and growing the EBITDA and all that stuff that is important, but what's missing over here on the qualitative side, and that's the dreaming side. So my wife is a better dreamer than I am. And so actually it's a good thing for me to do with her, because she does see a big picture, and she's not a spendthrift. She's not, I'm fortunate. She doesn't go out and just spend money and like, what else can we go buy? So I'm very, very fortunate that her dreaming is really qualitative and not how to spend more money. It's just how to have more significant time together. And so that part of dreaming is important. So we got to put the two together. It takes the logical, rational numbers analysis, yes, very important, but also that qualitative dreaming side. And then freedom, is you and I both expressed to each other, is about choices and options in life. Doesn't mean you have to be retired. You can be in business, in your practice, serving people, but enjoying that ride, because you're not compelled to have to crank a certain number of days, hours, just beating yourself crazy because a schedule fell apart one day. I mean, I remember those days. It's just like and you deal with a lot of this with teams and staff. That the doctor is just he's just so bent on, I got to make all these numbers hit, and it's like that's very, very stressful. And if you can obviate that and get to a point where that is not just everything you hang your head on every day, you're probably living a healthier, longer life just to begin with. More peace at home, more harmony in the practice. I've seen both sides of that in my own life, so I speak to what I know, and I know there's a good way to go about this, and a not healthy way to go about it.
Yeah, and it seems to be your calling card. Look, man, we don't live to work. We work so we can really live,
Right.
and we can enjoy these experiences. We can spend the quality time with our friends and our families and our loved ones. The job is your career. I mean, yes, it's a piece of you, but it's a piece of you. It doesn't define you. Speaking of not defining you, but I do have your book here, Building Your Financial Arc, which I have not. Admittedly, I should have been able to get through it. I have not. And David, I know you've written several, by the way. This is one of many that you've written. What was Building Your Financial Arc? What was the idea, the inspiration behind it? And if somebody was going to go pick it up, what are they going to get out of this? If you can see it, guys, think of Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
That's kind of how what gave you the idea to say, you know what, I got to write this thing? Because writing a book is not easy. And I respect so much when somebody takes the time, energy, and effort to do it.
Well, this book was written, yes, with the theme of Noah's Ark, and we know what Noah did when he got the word from God that the rains are coming, and here's what I want you to do. I want you, 2 by 2. I want you to gather, the animals, and you need to build this ship, because that's what's going to get you through what's coming, the flood that's coming. I'm not saying that a financial catastrophe like the 29 depression or 2008, which was the most recent one. I'm not saying that kind of financial calamity is necessarily coming, but what if we just kind of planned for some chaos and volatility? I do think we're going to have some of that. So it was built on that precept that by doing some things in advance, that we can be protective of our finances, which again leads to our other freedoms. And so that book was built on that construct, and just how I look at a little bit of what we talked about today on allocations and hedging, and how to put that together, how to be a more sophisticated investor without having to spend eons amount of time on it, because that's the thing, we're trying to buy back time. So I'm not trying to give people a second job and say, well, you need to know everything about finance and investing like you do about your business. Well, that's going to be impossible. So how do we collaborate with other people and bring the best of the best to the table, so that we can build an arc in our financial realm that will be protective, even with downside volatility and risk, which, just again, based on the cycles, something's coming. It's nothing grows to the trees, don't grow to the sky, and neither do the financial markets. There's going to be a reversion to the mean at some point. How hard, how deep, we don't know. So why not get ahead of the storm, do some things now to be protective, and sleep better at night?
Well, guys, it's a simple read, and I mean that by, it's not 500 pages, and it's, as David's talking, everything is very, I love the way you simplify things. That's probably what I really appreciate the most, is you get up there, you're talking about sometimes very complex issues, and yet you simplify it. One of the things I wish we could simplify, and maybe this is a huge topic, but you started investing during dental school. So at some point, you got some financial advice, really, which is lacking, especially in our schools. These kids aren't receiving like, hey, here's a curriculum on how to invest. That doesn't really exist that I'm seeing. What was your starting point, David, where you're like, you know what, this is something I think is a good idea, because if I can reach more of my young listeners right now, hear what David's about to say. I promise you, you won't regret it, because yes, the markets do go up and down sometimes, but the majority, let's just take real estate. It's pretty much, if you look back, it's gone, continued to go up. So what was your precipice? What said, you know what, I'm going to go start investing in dental school? Because I certainly didn't go through that course, and I sure, again, I don't believe in regrets, but man, it wouldn't have been terrible had I.
It was no course that I took, Jay. I mean, it was curiosity, and I guess my curiosity came from kind of part of my DNA. I I always wanted, even when I was younger and lived at home, I wanted some level of independence. Meaning, my parents, good for them, they didn't give my sisters and myself whatever we wanted. We got the basics. We got hand-me-downs. If you wanted something more, you had to earn it. Either you did extra chores at home, or I went out and just found jobs, mowing lawns and throwing newspapers and selling greeting cards door to door. I wanted to make the extra money so I could have the bike, the tennis racket, the black and white TV in my own room, not the family sit around watching Disney at night. I wanted a few things back then, and I'm in school, right? I went to college, and in my latter years of college, I just had this feeling. I said, I thought in my mind, I need to learn how to be an investor. I didn't really even know what that meant. I just knew the word investor was a good thing. That's all I knew. So I got books. I read books about the financial markets and mutual funds, and the IRAs were just coming on back then, and that's interesting. So I read about some of that, and then got some books on real estate. And real estate, to me, just won hands down on what I should focus on. So that's what led me to go to my dad when I was in my first year of dental school and say, hey, Dad, we need to buy a property together, because I had no money or credit. So fortunately, he believed in me. He put up the financing. I did the management. And that was the start of my investing career in 1980. And I just took it from there. I had no formal academic courses in finance, economics, any of that. I just had to learn what was important to me to learn, because I was curious. And the more I dug into it, and the more I saw relevance to what I was trying to build, which is like a plan B outside of my practice. So I had multiple streams of income, which came to light when Jenna was sick, and I could actually pull the plug on plan A, the practice, and say plan B is in play right now, at least for a while. And so my curiosity and how to build that as an investor was something that started, way back. And I just found real estate was a great vehicle. There's other ways to do it. Of course, there's other ways to do it. But real estate to me just made the most sense. And I just became fascinated by finance, and then economics, and then psychology and negotiation and law, all these things. I never took a formal course. I just dug in practically and learned as I went, found great mentors. And, that's, to me, I think that's some of the best ways we can educate ourselves today. Yeah, formal education is important to get whatever you need, the basics to get to through the next door. But man, self-learning, there's nothing like it. And you can make it apply to what you need at the right time, right place. And the world's your oyster. I say go for it.
Well, and you're obviously helping with financial literacy with your group, Freedom Founders, and your tribe of folks. You're educating. You even have inside of that, I think it's called the younger group, which I know it's a different name than that, David. Brother, what's on your mind? Just anything I didn't know enough to ask you that you're like, before we wrap up, Jam, this is on my heart. We got to get this out to folks. Anything I didn't know enough to ask you, brother?
Well, yes, great questions. No, I enjoyed the conversation always, Jam. I think that you just mentioned, our young cohort is we call them next gen. These are the young adults of our members who we invite to come to our live member meetings. We also run a subgroup within Freedom Founders that meets on Zoom, where we bring other people to counsel these younger people. It could be age 16 to 30. So, pretty wide range. They're either, high school, college, out of college, going out to careers, but trying to give them the basis of how to look at their life through a lens that they've never looked through, right? Because again, as you said, there's little or almost no financial education provided in the schools, and even my wife who has an MBA in finance from Vanderbilt, she'll say, "Yeah, but that's so non-real world. Yeah, what we're teaching is like real world. So again, not against the degrees, but what are you getting the degree for? If you're going to go into finance and Wall Street, then you need that kind of degree. If you're not, you don't need that. So teaching kids the how money works, just the basics of that, just a big leg up because they can see the world through such a different lens. I think make decisions that will better promote and produce the freedoms they want in their life and not get stuck, on the treadmill that so many people are on today.
Yeah, brother, I love it. You're providing choices and options and ultimately that freedom. So the title of your company, the name of your company is very apropos, and obviously you nailed that one. David, if people wanted to know more about Freedom Founders, building your financial arc, just they want to talk to you, man, where's the best place to find you?
They can go to freedomfounders.com, which is the primary website, and there's a place there to, set up. We just call them like discovery calls, just to talk through where people are, and if there's any alignment in the goals that people are trying to reach and what we do, great. People also can find me on the podcast, the Freedom Founders podcast. I have a YouTube video blog and a few other books on Amazon besides the financial arc book you brought up. So there's a number of places where people can catch up or at least just come along for the ride in whatever way they care to.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for, again, financial literacy and education. It's just, this is so necessary. And I learn every time I talk to you, and I appreciate the way you show up. As I mentioned, just vulnerable and just so relatable and kind, brother. So thank you. I just appreciate having me.
JM, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You guys, I hope you enjoyed. I mean, look, freedom, it is a huge word. It's an important word. And literally, he is living it. He's teaching it. And there's no reason you can't have it too. It gives you so many options. Go check out his books. Go check out Freedom Founders. He's an amazing man. I vouch for him 1,000%. Go check it out. Until next time, remember your mindset matters. I appreciate you all. Talk soon.